All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're unpacking a really powerful book called The Freedom Code by Khyati Birla. It's all about helping us figure out and then break free from these limitations we put on ourselves. The ones that are really holding us back.
So let me ask you something. Do you ever feel, stuck? Like you're just living the same patterns over and over again. Maybe it's in your relationships where you keep attracting the same kind of person and it always ends badly. Or maybe it's with money, facing that same tight spot every single month. It's like you're on this invisible hamster wheel, right? You can't see it, but man, you can feel it spinning.
And this is where the book hits you with this huge idea. We spend so much time blaming things, right? Bad luck, other people, the universe. But the Freedom Code says, hang on a second. The real prison, it's not out there. It's an invisible one that we've built for ourselves. And here's the kicker, we're also the jailer. We're the ones holding the key. Okay, so section 1. Let's talk about what this invisible prison actually is. I mean, if we're going to escape, we first have to understand what we're escaping from, right? So obviously we're not talking about a place with iron bars. This prison is made of our own thoughts, our emotions, our habits. It's this repeating pattern of suffering that we create for ourselves. And here's the really weird part. We get so used to it that it starts to feel familiar, almost comfortable. There's this strange safety in our old pain because, hey, at least we know what to expect. True freedom, that can feel totally unknown and honestly pretty terrifying. The book puts it this way. The very first step to getting out of this prison is to admit you're in one. Think about someone who's terrified of public speaking. They might stay in a safe job forever, turning down any opportunity that involves a presentation. They've literally built a prison around themselves with their fear. And they don't even realize that the promotion, the growth, the life they say they want is waiting right outside those walls. Just admitting those walls are there, that's step 1. All right, so moving on to section 2. If we're in a prison, how did it get built in the first place? Every prison has a blueprint, and according to the book, ours is based on our internal programming. The very foundation of this whole structure comes from what the book calls our core beliefs. Now, these aren't just thoughts that pop into your head. Think of them more like the operating system on your computer. They run in the background, totally unconscious most of the time, and they dictate how you see everything. To us, they don't even feel like beliefs. They feel like facts, like absolute truths. So where does this faulty code even come from? Well, it gets written way back in early childhood. For the first 7 to 10 years of our lives, our minds are basically like wet clay. Everything makes an impression. Words from our parents, our teachers, they get pressed deep into that clay. And then, as we grow up, that clay hardens, and those impressions become our subconscious operating system. Something as simple as hearing "don't be a crybaby" can turn into a lifelong program that says, hey, showing emotion is a weakness. And this prison is held up by 3 really strong pillars. It's a 3-step process. First, you have the beliefs, the stories you're constantly telling yourself. Second, those beliefs create your emotions, the feelings that pop up because of those stories. And third, those emotions drive your behavior, the actions you take because of how you feel. And here's the crucial part. These 3 pillars create this powerful, self-reinforcing loop that keeps you totally trapped. Let's walk through it. Say you have a belief, I'm not important. That belief might trigger an emotion, like sadness or anger when you feel like no one's listening to you. That emotion then leads to a behavior. Maybe you withdraw or you just get quiet. And what happens next? That behavior confirms your original belief. You think, see, nobody listened to me. I guess I really am not important. And boom, you're right back at the start of the loop. It just goes on and on. Okay, so we've talked about the prison, we've looked at the blueprint, and I know it can sound a little bit heavy, but here's the good news. The whole point of the book is the escape plan. So let's get into the good stuff, the tools for freedom. The first tool, and honestly the most important one, is awareness. I mean, think about it. You can't fix a pattern if you don't even know it's there. The book says we need to become like a scientist, a witness to our own minds. So instead of getting swept up in the storm of anger, you take a step back and just observe it without judgment. You just go, that's interesting. Looks like my I'm not good enough program just got activated. Okay, so here's the old way, our automatic default setting. Something happens, a trigger. Someone cuts you off in traffic, your boss criticizes you, and bam, automatic response. Your old programming just takes over. It's a straight line from trigger to reaction, totally unconscious with zero room for choice. But now, here's the Freedom Code way. This is the absolute game changer. You have the trigger, but then you insert the pause. This is everything. By creating just a tiny bit of space, we're talking even just one deep breath, between the trigger and your response, you break that automatic circuit. That little pause, that is where all your freedom lies. It's the moment you get to make a conscious choice instead of just reacting. Another huge tool is about rewriting your story. So let's take a breakup, for example. The facts of what happened, they don't change. But the story you tell yourself about it, that is 100% up to you. You can tell the victim story, I was betrayed again, I'm just not worthy of love. That makes you feel weak, helpless. Or you can tell the hero story. You know what? This relationship ended because it wasn't the right one for my higher self. That's empowering. It prepares you for something better. Same facts, totally different story, completely different feeling.
Okay, section 4, living in freedom. So you've got the tools. Now what? What does life actually look like when you're outside the prison walls? This is where all that practice starts to become a whole new way of living.
Now, this next one can be a tough pill to swallow, but it is so important. It's called radical responsibility. And this isn't about blaming yourself for what happened. What happened might not have been your fault at all. This is about taking 100% ownership of your reactions and your choices. See, as long as you're blaming someone else for how you feel, you've given them your power. But the moment you take full responsibility for your response, you take all of that power back. And the book makes it really clear that this isn't just some mental exercise. Your body keeps the score. All those unexpressed emotions, anger, grief, sadness, they don't just vanish into thin air. They get trapped inside our bodies as pain, as stiffness, maybe as a chronic illness. So releasing those emotions isn't just a mental thing, it's a physical thing too.
Okay, I absolutely love this next idea about fear. Our old programming tells us that when we feel fear, we should run away. But the Freedom Code says the exact opposite. It says fear is not your enemy, it's your compass. It's always pointing you directly toward the areas where you need to grow the most. You know that saying, the cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek? That's exactly it. Your greatest freedom is waiting for you on the other side of your greatest fear.
And this brings us to a really crucial point. Freedom is not a destination. It's a practice. Just reading this book or, listening to me talk about it, that doesn't just magically set you free. It's something you have to do every single day. It's a daily, moment-by-moment practice of being aware, taking that pause, and then making a conscious choice. The book uses this great analogy of learning to surf, and it just captures the whole idea perfectly. The waves, life's challenges, they are never going to stop coming. That's just a fact of life. So freedom isn't about trying to make the ocean flat. Freedom is about learning how to ride the waves. It's about developing the skill and the balance to navigate whatever life throws at you. Which leads us to the final, powerful question that the book leaves you with. The key has always been in your pocket. That old programming, that code, it might run deep, but the power to rewrite it has always been with you. This book just helps you remember where you put the key. So the only question left is, when are you going to unlock your prison?